I'm going to start with Isabella, and I would love if you would tell us about what got you interested in being involved with the Dragonfly home and some of the stuff that we talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So, I have I've been greatly informed almost my entire life. My mom went through some horrific things through her childhood that really like brought me closer to the cause and wanting to help. Because thinking about my mom in such a vulnerable state as like when I was a kid and her being in a place like when I was happy and running around and she was protecting me, somebody else wasn't doing that for her. And when I got older and I was able to drive around, I found Dragonfly home and I contacted them to maybe
Awesome.
help another person out.
And is there anything, since you've been with Dragonfly and learning about, the education we talk about with trafficking and some of the vulnerabilities, was there anything that you learned through working with Dragonfly that you maybe didn't know before?
A ton. Honestly, I think the biggest one that we hear the most, I was told when I first moved to Oklahoma about the highways, and I really think about it, but I remember our first meeting at the Dragonfly home, and they were like, and the biggest or misconception is the highways, and I was like, I've heard that once or twice.
For sure. I think definitely. I think that's something that for all of us, that was probably something that we heard. I know for me growing up, we have such an issue because of the highways. And even in high school, looking back, that was, the things I was hearing. So I'd want to know too, same if you would introduce yourself and then talk about maybe something that you learned that you didn't know before.
My name is Kira, and I learned like how common it is, especially with like people that you trust and that you think are like close with you or have your best interest in mind. Just the fact that it could be someone who you think is very caring of you, and they could turn around and do something like that. So.
And what got you interested with wanting to get involved with Dragonfly's Youth Leadership Board and just kind of getting involved with this cause?
So Dragonfly Home came and talked to my church, and I hadn't really learned much about human trafficking at all. And so like hearing just a little bit, I was like, wow, I really want to learn more about something like this, because since it's so like common, it's something to be aware of. And so I just want to help raise awareness about it.
For sure. I know that makes us really excited because when we're talking about trafficking and we're talking about people who are vulnerable and really need this education, I mean, it's people your guys' age. It's you guys that will be able to tell your friends and like the social circles and the groups that you're already a part of, having somebody that age that understands something that is so complex. I mean, truly it is so impressive, but it's also something that's super encouraging to us that you guys are interested in something so much bigger than yourselves, even at that age. And I'd love if you'd also introduce yourself and what got you involved with being a part of Dragonfly's Youth Leadership Board.
My name is Taylor, and I kind of got involved when Melissa kind of approached me and asked if I want to help create the Dragonfly's first ever team board. So we got together and talked about how it would look like and what would we do. And this is what we came up with, and it's been so much fun and so educational, and we've been able to like reach so many people and do so many more fun things. And for me, it's just been really nice to be able to help educate and like learn more myself. Because on Isabella's point, I did think like, oh, highways, like that's why we have issues. Like the highway system is why Oklahoma is a high trafficking state. But now I know like that's not true, and it's way more common than anyone would think.
Sure. And I love to hear that just because, I mean, that really is the inception of youth leadership is we wanted, what do you guys want to do? What are the things that you're hearing or the misconceptions that you want to dispel? And so, we've been able to have this group and talk about all these different things. And I'd love to know, too, from Kaylee and Clementine, maybe some of the things you guys have learned in doing Youth Leadership Board.
I think it's been very encouraging to me to see young adults who are very interested and like want to have such a real impact on this cause that is very near and dear to my heart. There's really more that young adults can do, I think, than maybe they realize off the top of their head, So I think it's just been really impressive for me to see you guys come up and like just really take it on like full force, you know, not been afraid of, you know, any of these like crazy assignments, like plan an event. And it's like that could seem so hard and like so big, but like you guys have really tackled it and done it really well. So thank you guys for all the work you've done.
I would just piggyback off of that, like just seeing people, you know, I was 16, 17 at one point, and I just like didn't really have the awareness that you guys do or that you like strive to have. And yeah, I think, you know, like a big thing that I've learned from like Hallie and like presentation she's given is like a lot of prevention can come through like just people in Oklahoma being educated. And so, you know, I think seeing the impact of like this youth leadership board where it's like if 3 of you are, you know, receiving this like really like rich education on like what trafficking can look like, and you know you tell your friends, and then that kind of has like a trickle down effect, and more kids are just aware of what it really can look like, and they don't have these like misconceptions really at the forefront. I think that's like a big step for like Oklahoma and stuff. So.
And so with you three, before you were in youth leadership, I'm just kind of curious, had you ever heard or thought that human trafficking might have to do with like getting kidnapped or stranger danger or abductions? You're kind of looking more for what we do see in the movies and in social media.
Yes, so I saw The Sound of Freedom when it came out, and I saw like, oh, like across the country, like through the borders, like being kidnapped, little kids getting taken. And that was a big like misconception for me to see what it's really like.
Same. I feel like with TikTok and social media, like there's a lot of, like check under your cars, like they're gonna come and get you like right out under. But I feel like that's not their tactics. That's not what they're doing. So like I think everyone's kind of misinformed on the signs to look for.
For me, I always understood that it could be somebody in your family. It could be one of your friends. I mean, my mom, as I said, very protective. She'd always tell me, you know, it could be one of your friends, Bella. It can be, it could be your family. And I mean, I was always very aware of that. It's just something that, I mean, I grew up knowing, and then when I came here, it was just enforced. I was like, yeah, that's genuinely, you know, like everything she said that she lived through, it's real.
Yeah.
And I mean,
No, for sure. And I think that is kind of what we hope, is that people, when they're growing up, they get to have these kind of open conversations, maybe not always rooted in trauma, but just open conversations about where dangerous people could come from, or what this could really look like when it's our friends or our family, rather than, you know, the stranger kidnapping, although sometimes that's easier to think of. But kind of like you guys have said, by learning this information and realizing, kind of like you said, you want to know the real signs and the real things to look for. And so, you know, us having these meetings and being a part of it, you guys have really shown how much that education can really spread, and not just from you taking it in and absorbing it, but we hear the way that you guys now talk about trafficking. And so I think that is super cool, that you guys now know this information and you're spreading it, you know, with your friends and in those groups, because that's the things that we hear. We hear that people are looking out for stranger danger. They're looking out for somebody being kidnapped and taking across the highway. And I know that's what I heard growing up in school. And so I think it does a disservice to you guys if that is all we're saying, because you're now looking out for strangers and only trusting the people close to you. And if we're having these conversations, it really does open up looking at all of our relationships and how we interact with our friends and our families. And I think it's not like a scary thing to talk about trafficking, even though it's a scary topic, because it's really empowering us to look for trafficking. Traffickers' favorite thing is if we don't know what it is. We've definitely learned that by now. They love to hide in the shadows of where we're not looking. And so for us, it's kind of like, hey, they're right here, we're pointing them out, we can actually do something. So it makes me really excited to just see how passionate and involved you guys have been. Okay, so our last question for today, and I want all of you guys to answer it, is I want to know where you would like to see the Dragonfly Homes Youth Leadership Board move, are you wanting to see any specific education topics? Are you wanting more people to get involved? You know, what is kind of your vision now as you guys have been helping build this?
Yeah, for me, I would say definitely just growing and getting more people educated and maybe taking it more directly into schools, like coming and doing presentations to educate more kids, and maybe they'll like from that want to get involved. Just like, I don't know, doing more fundraising and more activities to just educate everybody.
I agree with Taylor, like more people involved in partnership with like schools, especially like maybe a spirit week. That would bring a lot of awareness throughout the school.
I really just want to bring like attention to more kids how important it is to know about trafficking. I mean, I remember I had a teacher tell me that it wasn't a real problem, and I mean, I feel like that's a very dangerous thought process to have. And so for my biggest goal to being here is raise more awareness and hopefully more kids join because of that.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, I would speak for us at Dragonfly too, that is what we would see. We see the biggest impact when, honestly, it's you guys banding together. If you guys are going through something, more than likely you're going to call your best friend. So we want that best friend that you're calling to know this information too, because you guys are the ones helping each other. So if there is anybody watching or interested, and you want to join the Dragonfly Youth Leadership Board, we have all kinds of opportunities here, and we would love for you to be a part of it.